Hello, I'm Ciara, and some of you may know me already if you're part of the Unity Studio community. I'm the owner and creative director of the Unity Studio, and we're trying something new. It's called Conversations with Ciara. So the aim with this is just to take 30 minutes to talk to people about issues or practices that are related to the things we do at the Unity Studio. It's also an opportunity for people to just converse, so it's actually more of an authentic conversation and just a chance to really get to know us a little bit. So we're going to be starting with the people that are really involved in the Unity Studio on a day-to-day basis, and then we'll start to expand out from there just to help people understand what we're doing here, why, and what for, really. So I just wanted to start today by saying that the reason why I decided to create the Unity Studio and open it is because I really felt that at this time in history, as we shift into a different kind of consciousness, because I truly actually believe that's happening in the world, and we see evidence of that everywhere, we really need to go back, especially in a post-COVID world, to creating communities, to creating relationships, to creating spaces where people can play, where they can find joy, they can create, they can heal. And for me, I'm a lifelong creative. I've been an artist, I've been a musician, I'm a trained opera singer, I'm a voice teacher, I'm a performer, and I've been doing that for a large part of my life, and while also creating workshops and teaching. And I wanted to combine that with some healing modalities that I'd started to study and work with over the years, particularly because my firstborn child, Oisin, was diagnosed with a very rare but very aggressive brain tumor that some people who may be watching this know. And it was a really difficult and challenging time in my life. I went from having a healthy child and a performance career to really having to start over again. It dismantled my marriage. My son Oisin passed away after 9 months, and just living through that experience was extraordinarily challenging, and living through, moving through the grief of that has also been very challenging, and it's an ongoing process. Oisin passed away 2.5 years ago, and one of the things that's really valuable to me is that when he was diagnosed, I'd been, since about 2018, I mean, I've always been doing yoga, I've always meditated, I've always been involved in creativity, I've been a singer, you know, all of those things have been part of my life. But in 2018, I really had a big awakening. I had an awakening moment where I really started to understand some things that I had been searching for answers for in terms of the universe, the makeup of the universe. I started studying quantum physics. I started to read and learn and absorb everything I could about sound healing and frequency healing and energy healing. And it turned out I thought I was preparing for an album that I was making, but actually I was preparing to be able to walk through the experience of Oisin's brain cancer as a mother, which also forced me to come out of the closet spiritually, because when your child's life is on the line, you ask for help. You change the way you are. Anything goes, frankly. And what supported me the most through that experience was the online community that just gathered around us, community which was filled with people from all races, all religions, all backgrounds, Indigenous people, people around the world. Like, it was just really remarkable, and that kept me going. And it also caused me to just be overt and honest about my perspective. It also helped me to get through the experience because I understood that this wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. And that has led me down the path of opening the Unity Studio, which really is a place where I'd like to show people through what we program, what we do, that that is really how one can walk through the most challenging aspects of a life. And when Oisin passed away, I had my career to start again. I was alone. I had a young 5-year-old still with me. So, you know, but because I did the work, I continued to allow the feelings to come through and so forth. I have been able to move through it. It's a daily practice, but it also inspired me to open the first harmonic egg in Toronto, which is at the heart and core of the Unity Studio. What we also program, we're a venue, high vibrational venue, and we also program our own classes. I teach singing here. It's a place for art, for dancing, for creativity, but also what we have just introduced, and I'm so excited about this because it's part of energy healing, it's part of how we come back to ourselves, is we've started to introduce breathwork, sound healing, and somatic journeys here. And I don't know that much about it, but today the first person I'm talking to is Ryan Poulter. He is our in-house practitioner, and he has just started with offering these classes on Monday mornings, Wednesday evenings, and Saturday mornings, as well as he's created a group for men called Men's Connection, which happens on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. And these are weekly classes and gatherings. So we really are trying to and look forward to creating more of a community around this, and it's gotten off to a great start. One of the last things I want to say before I actually hand over to Ryan is one of the main things that happened to me going through the journey of Oisin's cancer, being in the hospital, having to deal with just all of that, it was a lot, you know, and it started a little bit before when I was really dedicated to meditating. I started to notice that my body would have responses in meditation or responses during sound healing, or when I was seeing my osteopath, I would have some releases, and I later came to understand that they were somatic releases, and I came to understand that that was a way of all of the tension, the trauma of moving itself out of my body. I've always been very connected to breathwork because it's at the foundation of what I teach with my voice practice, and that frankly has gotten me through many, many challenging moments in my life. But today I want to talk to Ryan more deeply about what is breathwork, what is somatic healing, and I don't even know if I'm using the right terms, but he's going to correct me when we start chatting, and what to expect with sound healing, and when and why and how might we use these tools, because these are phenomenal tools that help us to really start to heal in exceptional ways, releasing built up energy, you know, allowing ourselves to feel the emotions of whatever we're going through in life at the time, or release past traumas. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah, very excited to be having this conversation and sharing more about what we're doing in the studio. First and foremost, what I love about the studio and the community that we're building is that in community we thrive, because unity is in the word itself, right? Coming into unity through community, both individually and collectively. And I think that's how not just we shift ourselves, but we are shifting as a collective, you know, on a greater scale. So I'm very excited for the magic that is happening in the Unity Studio. And for those who may or may not be familiar with somatics and breathwork and sound and all of what those things are, before we dive into that, you know, I like to just strip it back to sort of the surface level in a way, but something that relates to us all, and that is the human experience, right? That's what we are all here having.
Yeah.
And for each of us individually, it will look different, right? What experiences we have throughout the different stages of our lives. But the essence of it all is the same between everyone. We're here having the human experience. What is the human experience? To strip it back, again, as simply put, is to experience and express. To experience what life is bringing us or bringing through us, and then to express that through us authentically, with ease, with grace, with a flow where we're not restricted, we're not holding on, we're not contracted, we're not rigid. It's allowing life to express itself through us as we experience it, as it is, as we are.
And what's interesting about that, because that goes back to the idea of calling the space unity, for me, the idea of unity is to accept that each of us is an individual. Each of us is going to have different experiences. And when life throws us curveballs, challenges, rather than what we've all sort of been trained to believe, which is that we're failures, because that's just not the nature of things, it's actually, those are opportunities for growth and opportunities for our soul's growth. And it's exactly why we're here. We're here to have different experiences, to enjoy and understand ourselves in different ways.
Absolutely. And, you know, every person, I always say, has a unique energetic signature. What they bring. When we talk about purpose, a lot of people go into purpose. What is my purpose? What do I need to do to be in my purpose? Your purpose is not a doing, it is a being. It is who you are at the very core. And then bringing it into whatever you're doing, it's how are you being in your doing.
It's interesting because even that word purpose, I struggle with a little bit because I almost prefer service, because purpose feels a little bit like one must be productive in a sense, you know, whereas service feels a bit more like what's my highest contribution within the capacity of who I am to this earth at this time. Does that make sense?
Totally. And yeah, it's not like, how are we and how can we be of service in every moment? In every moment. It's not just the big grand thing that we think we need to achieve and, you know, give this big grand thing. It's happening. Life is happening in every moment. How are we experiencing life in this moment? How are we expressing life in this moment? And allowing service to come through that in our own unique way.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of us are transitioning out of what is my career as the main reason for being alive to how am I enjoying, or what is my service in every moment. So for example, I've made a few choices, especially based on my experience of losing one of my children, that I go home 2 days a week and make sure that I'm picking my son up from school. I'm present with him. I'm not answering emails from work, and it's hard. And I'm playing games with him. We're doing music together. And I'm working on that on a daily basis, because it's part of that being in the moment, you know, really connecting and being present in every moment you're in. And it's a challenge because it's different from what we've all been trained into, frankly, right?
Totally. And I think that's a great transition into talking about somatic specifically. So somatic or soma is relating to the body, right? But when we're talking about somatics is the body of a living organism, right?
Okay.
And as we know, the human body, the human vessel, various systems, it is such a complex system, but all of these systems, alongside nature, thrive in harmony together, right? And thrive in synergy to create the full ecosystem. So we're looking at sort of 3 levels, again, keeping it very simple. That first outer circle, I like to say, is thought. It's associated to the mind.
Okay.
The second inner circle is emotion, and that's connected to the body. The innermost circle, and this is where somatics really comes in, is sensation. And this is your felt sense experience. So most people, we're living often up in the mind, or as we're out through our day-to-day, maybe we are in an experience or have a situation that can bring up some emotion, and say that emotion is anger. We can feel that anger, whether we've been taught how to express or regulate our emotions. We're going to have different reactions or responses to the emotion that arises in our body. How we do that, whether it's in a healthy outlet or an unhealthy outlet, we project that. But coming into that deeper layer, the felt sense, is unearthing from the root. It's essentially giving space to the living intelligence of what is arising in that moment. And in somatics, we're simply meeting what is arising in the moment as it is, as it's arising. We're meeting it as we are, with a loving, non-judgmental, compassionate presence and awareness, which simply gives the energy. And if we pull it back to the second circle, emotion is energy in motion. Emotion just wants to move. So we can go into, and we'll talk about it in a moment, but like breathwork, there's many different styles of breathwork that support with emotional regulation.
And let me just stop you there for
Beautiful.
a sec, because so when I have had a session with Ryan, and it was remarkable, like it was really transcendent, I would even say. And it was one of the times in my life where I've actually felt that I've experienced a similar kind of movement of emotion and movement of energy, I suppose, maybe using plant medicine, you know, but there was no need for that when we worked together. But the other key factor, which really I found extremely impressive, and it puts a lot of responsibility on the facilitator, is you were talking me through those moments. So when I had those emotions come up, or those somatic releases in the body, there was an encouragement and there was an allowance that was coming from you to lean into it, to allow it to even, to move even more, however it had to. And at the time, I had been dealing with a situation in my life, and it was related to the grief, it was related to my past, where some anger had come up. And there was some fiery, red hot anger that had to come out as part of my healing process, as part of letting go of the injustice of losing Oshin and having to start my life again or what have you. So there was an encouragement for me to actually truthfully and honestly fully lean into the release of that, and it was just so powerful, and it really felt like it just allowed me so much movement in my grief journey, so. What do you say about that in terms of the role of the practitioner when doing that kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, it's very complex in different aspects, but to just speak to that quickly, the living intelligence of your body, right? What you were experiencing and your body was ready to process. Your body was ready to process because it has the living intelligence of what is alive, what is arising, and what it is ready to release, to process, to feel, to regulate, to resolve and dissolve.
Yeah, it feels like almost like it's the innate is involved, it's the consciousness of the body, there's a magic there, like
exactly.
It's, right?
And it's simply us getting out of our own way, allowing the living intelligence. Again, we're nature. Our nature is nature. Nature is us, we are nature. Nature's natural way is to self-organize.
Yeah.
It does that in itself, in the forest and all the things. It self-organizes itself. We are the same, but we spend our time up in the mind. So getting out of the mind, somatically surrendering into the kinesthetic connection, so the felt sense experience, is us getting out of the way and allowing the energy to do what it does innately to resolve and dissolve.
And it's funny because it really does link back to precisely to the voice technique that I teach, which again, really what I'm teaching students is to become embodied. In other words, to start understanding and working with the innate intelligence of your body, and again, whenever we get out of the way, that's when the best work can happen in all aspects of life. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. And that takes us bridges nicely into the breath, breath work. Breath, and don't quote me on this, I think it's either ancient Roman or ancient Greek perhaps, but in one of those, breath translates to spirit.
Yes, and I've heard this from multiple, actually it's in some indigenous cultures, it's also the same. So it makes perfect sense. I've heard this before as well.
So spirituality is not this woo-woo ungrounded thing. It is the physical experience, right? Our body, our breath is the physical embodiment of our spiritual self.
Absolutely,
And so that's where the power of the breath comes in, and the range of what the breath allows us to do, to regulate, to relax, to activate, to stimulate, to process, to discharge, a full spectrum of what the breath can do. And obviously you've experienced sort of the depths of what that is. More so in a session like we went through, so it's a biodynamic breath work where we're working with the nervous system, we're working in somatics, we're working with the breath, we're working in sound, talk therapy, as well as myofascial release as well. We look at the body made up of fascia. Fascia is a connective tissue, but it also holds memories, emotions, trauma, etc. There's a great book, I won't go into that, but the body holds a score. And that's just to mention that speaks for itself. The body holds a score. Whatever has been suppressed, repressed, held on to, held in, is being held within the body. And unconsciously or subconsciously, those things that are unresolved play out in our life or create a block in perhaps how we show up in our relationships, in our business, in every different area, right?
Yeah.
So breath work, we're looking at conscious connected breathing. We're breathing in different sequences, rhythms, and grooves. The more that we practice breath work, the more that we consciously breathe, the more that our unconscious breath patterns will improve. So our overall health and well-being will improve naturally. Because how often are we thinking about our breath?
Yeah.
Very unregularly.
Yeah.
then the other thing being, when we go into the breath at a deeper level, it allows us to access our nervous system. So we have, if you don't know, the autonomic nervous system, and that branches out into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Our sympathetic is our fight or flight, our stress response. Often, if the body or the nervous system perceives danger, this system is activated or stimulated. And then the other side of it is the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. When we're at ease, this is where we rejuvenate and recover and restore on a deep cellular level. Both have their place, and the nervous system will do exactly innately what it does to filter through each experience and have its internal response. This is where we experience life through. We're experiencing life through our nervous system. And how our nervous system can become dysregulated is when we're having an experience. If an experience is happening too fast, too quickly, and it's too much for the system, becomes overwhelmed, we go into that stress response. I mean, we can look at society with all of the stimulations, the distractions, temptations, and just different aspects of the collective, things that are putting us into a stress response 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And most people are living in this state, many different factors,
Yeah.
again, suppressed emotions, unresolved past experiences will keep the body in that response. So when we're going deeper into the breath, we're working with titration. And this is the threshold or the window of tolerance for the nervous system. We're going deeper into the breath. We're using an activated breath like we did in your session, which allows us to activate the nervous system, right? And then as things arise, as we go deeper into the body, sensations arise, emotions arise, memories arise. The thing is, with most breath work, as it's becoming more common, people are seeing big releases, yelling, crying, screaming, raging, but also joy, laughter, bliss, orgasm. All of these things are beautiful and are a part of the human experience. And for a lot of people, when you haven't been able to access or express an emotion like that, you know, for perhaps most of, if not all of your life, those experiences are going to be powerful, yes. Think of it as a cup or a bottle. If that bottle fills up every time you suppress an emotion, that bottle builds up. Eventually the cap on the bottle is going to blow up and overwhelming, and then how that can impact your life, relationships, etc. So having those big releases are powerful. However, if we're activating the nervous system, we come to the window of tolerance of our threshold of our nervous system. If we just shoot the cap off the bottle, yes, it's going to empty out some of that energy, but it also potentially can recreate and recycle and re-traumatize.
Right.
So this is where in the sessions when we bring somatics into it, we're working with titration, we want to activate the nervous system to come into unearthing some of those unresolved, suppressed aspects. But as we meet them, we then come into what's called a discharge breath. And that's bringing us back into a parasympathetic state so that we can process the energy, the felt sense of what's arising present in that moment in a safe, integrated, and embodied way, versus continuing to activate, go beyond that threshold, potentially go into freeze, fawn, disassociation, disconnect because it's too much, too fast, too quickly for the nervous system's capacity.
That's so interesting. And then it shows you the sensitivity needed for anyone who's a practitioner in this to be able to read not only the individual, but if you're in a group session, to be able to really gauge the group where people are at so that you can, and a lot of sort of things in this, I'm thinking of ecstatic dance, you know, it goes up and it builds to a peak, but then it has to come back down. So there's a container, right? And it's a safe container. And it's interesting, one of the things that occurred to me when I was grieving my son was I'm a trained actor. So I'm trained in emoting. I'm trained in emotion. And so I think that has helped me so much because I was not afraid to go to those places. And there were times when I felt like I was holding it for the, you know, the planet, if not, you know, for ancestrally or what have you. And that's really because I had been trained in the ability to have the emotion, but then to also know when that's enough and kind of come back down from it, and not in the same form, but it's interesting how they cross over in that way,
very similar.
you know?
And that's, coming back to those 3 circles, why in somatics we're focusing on the innermost circle, the felt sense experience, the sensation, because if we're focusing on emotion, it's one of 2 ways. We can go into the felt sense experience of that emotion, or we're in the emotion, we notice the emotion, but we can go into the mind and analyze the emotion.
Yeah.
Right? Think about, why am I feeling this way, or what am I feeling? And being in the mind, trying to process the emotion while we're in the mind is only going to keep us up in the mind, and also it's not going to allow us to fully process the energy of the emotion that's present and arising somatically within the body.
Something else I've heard, and again, take it or leave it, but it really speaks truth to me, and I've since I heard it, I've been gauging it, and that is that humans tend to only authentically stay in an emotion for about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And after that period, they start to attach a story. So then it does go into the mind. And I've noticed that with that information, and I can then say to myself, okay, is the emotion still here? Or now are we feeling sorry for ourselves, or are we whatever that is, whatever that story is? And I often say that to people when they're leaving, having done a harmonic egg treatment, that tomorrow you may find that there are some waves of emotion that come up, because that's a very common thing for people when they've had a first treatment or any treatment, and it happens to me every time. And then I just sort of say, whatever comes across your mind, that's great, that's giving you information, but just don't get attached to it. Just allow it to flow. And I feel that way in meditation as well. If I'm lying, I tend to lie down in meditation rather than sit up. But when I do, I find that I allow those feelings to come in, or those ideas, whatever's coming in my brain. I don't repress it, suppress it, what have you, but I just let it come and acknowledge it and let it go, rather than attaching any sort of story to it, or going to try at least to go down that sort of wormhole of what that is, right?
Totally, yeah. Like, emotions also only take roughly about 90 seconds to be processed fully in the body.
Right, interesting.
And as
Very
humans,
good,
when we're in the
useful
mind, like
piece
the
of
ego
information.
part of us will resist feeling that, resist surrendering into the living intelligence of that. Will avoid, will numb, will
And it's
suppress.
funny, because when you think about it, it's only 90 seconds. If we just let it happen, it would be so much better for us, except we fight it so much, because we don't know that, really. We don't know that information.
Absolutely, and we're not taught it. We're not told how to process emotions. Maybe we've never had a safe space for us to process emotions.
Or we're
as well.
actually told, don't have emotions.
That as well.
When I was being raised, that was huge. That's a sort of piece of what we're kind of beginning to recover from now, right? Especially men, more than women, but generally everybody. If you expressed emotion, what's wrong with you? You're hysterical if you're a woman, and you're unmanly if you're a man, and
Absolutely.
Total myths.
Absolutely. And that just bringing it back to that emotional piece and expression emotion, and those 3 circles, if we're processing emotion or feeling an emotion arise, if we go into the mind, we're going to bring the stories in. For example, say anger is the emotion that's arising in the body in that moment. If we go into the mind of, okay, I know I'm feeling anger, but like, what do I do with it? How do I feel about it? How do I express it or release it? The stories of the mind that we have about, or that we've been taught about, or that we've carried or picked up from other people, society, our parents, etc., around that are going to come into play, and then that's going to be projected onto the emotional experience, which then, in how we express the emotion, either is a micro of what really wants to come through, or it becomes performative. And in the bigger sort of breathwork spaces where people are just chasing after an emotional release, one, you get addicted to that. Humans become addicted to everything. And we're addicted to anything. We become addicted to chasing the high of having this big process and release. Or we're in a group going through it, and maybe you notice, like, you're in the breath journey and you're experiencing one thing, but then you hear someone else on the other side of the room having a complete opposite experience or expression in that moment. It's easy to come into the mind and be like, oh, well, do I need to be like that?
Yeah,
versus
totally.
surrendering into what is alive within you in that moment. That's why I say meet what is as it is as you are.
Yeah, and then it just brings me back to our tagline at the Unity Studio, which is transformation from within. The reason why I chose that is it really does all come back to us. Inside we have all the answers. That's something that I really want to make sure that we share with people and let people know, is that we don't have to reach out there anymore. Of course we can read articles, we can watch people. I have so many wonderful people that I follow, but I also know that all the work, I have all the answers within, and I have to just start to learn how to be listening to my body, listening to myself. We have about 1 minute left, so what I wanted to ask you very quickly in that last minute is, how do you bring in then the sound healing aspect to some of the classes and the work that you do? Where does that fit in?
Yeah, beautiful. So the great quote, you know, if we want to connect with the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Tesla.
Yes. All sound.
For those who don't know.
All sound and instrument has a vibration and a frequency. Different instruments, different sounds, different keys, different notes. Obviously, you must know a bit about this with your musician background. So I find it allows us to drop deeper into the experience because we're allowing the vibrations to work through us and merge with us. When we pair that with the breath, when we're pairing that with the somatic experience, it's going to amplify that, allow us to go deeper into that, into ourselves, etc.
And for those who don't know, the harmonic egg, which is what we have here at the Unity Studio, is really all about frequency. It's about resonance. It's about how all of those aspects really can work with the body, the cellular structure, and how you can choose different frequencies, different instruments to support the body in different ways and allow the body to actually really relax. And again, a lot of this is about going into that rest and digest, really calming down the autonomic nervous system. And pretty much everything we do at Unity Studio is going to do that, whether it's a joy-filled, fun event where it's creative, or it is a class or a harmonic egg treatment. Again, the way I teach voice, very much that's how we prepare the body to really allow it to be the instrument. So thank you so much, Ryan, for being the first person to do conversations with Ciara. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity to learn more. I learned a lot today, so I really appreciate that. And I hope that all of you guys will find your way to the Unity Studio so that you can have a class with Ryan. It's definitely worth it. Again, as I mentioned, Monday mornings, his first class is it 7:45?
Yep.
And then the second class is 9 a.m. You can buy tickets for that either through the Unity Studio on our website, which is www.theunitystudio.com, or on Eventbrite. So far, that's where we've got tickets for the classes. Wednesday, what are the times?
Wednesday is
one time,
7 till 8:30.
Okay, and then Saturday it's
8:30 till 10 a.m.
Okay, so, and we do have deals at the studio. If you want to buy a few passes, the price is less. But really, come and check it out. We're very, very fortunate to have Ryan here. And if you want to know more about Ryan, just email us at info@theunitystudio.com because we can tell you everything you need to know. So thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you.